In this video, we are going to learn about complex numbers. We'll just try out with the definitions. Then we are going to learn about the conjugate of a complex numbers and the four basic mathematical functions and operations that can be performed with a complex numbers. That is addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. But before that, we are going to summarize two rules about complex numbers. The first one is that if we have two numbers, say a and b, that then the square root of the product of these two numbers is equal to the square root of the first number and the square root of the second number. That is, square root of a into b is equal to the square root of a into square root of b. Suppose I have square root of 6, that means square root of 3 into 2. This also means that it's root 3 into root 2. Similarly, suppose I have a by b. So let's I have 3 by 2. This means square root of 3 by square root of 2. So these two rules you need to remember to do complex numbers. And of course, rationalization, we should know how to rationalize. Suppose we have a radical sign or the root sign in the denominator. So we multiply both sides by the radical sign. By the same denominator, we multiply the numerator and the denominator with root 2 because I have root 2 in the denominator. So what happens? Root 3 into root 2 is actually root 3 into 2 divided by root 2 into root 2 is actually 2. So that's equal to root 6, or I say half of root 6. That's equal to the half of root 6. So this method is called rationalization, which we need while doing the division of complex numbers. So now let's begin. What is a complex numbers? Like we have ordinary numbers, real numbers, whole numbers, irrational number, rational number. So what is a complex number? That we are going to learn in this video. But before that, we are going to just consider one thing, that the square root of all the positive numbers, like 9, the square root of 9 is, you'll say it's 3, of course, but it's not actually equal to 3. It is equal to plus minus 3. Now that's a little bit confusing, but if you see that plus 3 into plus 3 is what? We write it as plus 3 the whole square, that is 9. But if you see, then minus 3 into minus 3 is also equal to minus 3 square equals to 9. And if you see, then plus 3 square is 9 and minus 3 square is also 9. So if I need to find the square root of 9, then this is just the square root of plus 3 the whole square. But 9 is also minus 3 the whole square. Remember, 9 is minus 3 the whole square. That means we can get one answer as plus 3 and the other answer as minus 3. So in general, we write them both as plus minus 3. So the square root of any positive number, is actually plus minus that number, the square root of that number. So if you see that the square of a negative number is positive and the square of a positive number is also positive, then what is the square root of a negative number? Like we want to say that what is the square root of minus 9? So the square root of minus 9 is actually the square root of 9 into minus 1. And we write this as square root of 9 into square root of minus 1. Now remember, the square root of 9 is actually plus minus 3. So we write plus minus 3 root of minus 1. Now this root of minus 1, the square root of minus 1, is actually a term that is not defined in mathematics. This is called an imaginary term. So the square root of minus 1, whenever you see a number that contains the square root of minus 1, we say that number to be imaginary. So that is denoted by the letter small I. So we write this as plus minus 3i. Now from here we extend this to a definition to a new number called the complex number. Now see, 3 into square root of minus 1 is not a real number because it contains an imaginary term. So we say x plus minus y I, that is y I is the square root of minus 1, is called a complex number. Now see, we have the plus minus term here. That doesn't mean it has to be minus, it has to be plus minus. It means that it can be plus or it can be minus. Now see, this is the x. X is any real number, rational, irrational, positive, negative. And this y is also a real number, rational, irrational, positive, negative, or any number. And this I, the presence of this I term here, makes this whole number, this complete, not whole number, this complete number a complex number. So we say 3 plus 2i is a complex number, 4 plus 6i is a complex number, 3 minus 2i is also a complex number. And of course we can say that every real number, say 2 is a real number, 2.1 is a real number, these all real number, or and of course 2.111 so on is also a real number. These all numbers are complex number. Like 2, we can write 2 as 2 plus 0 into square root of minus 1, then it becomes a complex number. We can write 2.1 as 2.1 plus 0 into square root of minus 1, so it becomes a complex number. And this also we can write as 0 into root of minus 1, then this becomes a complex number. Now we are going to learn about the conjugate. Now the next thing that we are going to learn is about the conjugate of a complex number. Now, but before learning about the complex conjugate or the conjugate of a complex number, we are going to learn about the conjugate of a real number. Say I have a plus b. A plus b is a real number. The conjugate of this number is actually a minus b. So the conjugate of a real number is this, you can understand. Similarly, if we have b plus a, we can write the conjugate as b minus a. Now coming to the conjugate of a complex number. Well, let's have a complex number. Z is equal to x plus iy. Then the conjugate of this number would be it's denoted as z bar, would be x plus x, and this plus sign before the imaginary part turns to minus sign, and we write this. Now remember, if we change the order also, in this case when we change the order from b to a, we changed the order, it was a plus b, I changed to b plus a, then this also changed. In this case it does not change. We conjugate of a complex number is always placed before the imaginary sign, imaginary number. So this is the imaginary number as it contains the I term here, so that's why we place the minus sign before the imaginary number. Okay, now say a complex number as 3 plus 4i is a complex number. Then we write the conjugate of this number as the z bar equals to 3 minus 4i. Right, so that's all about the conjugate. Now in the next video we are going to discuss about the 4 operations on conjugate number, that is addition, subtraction, multiplication and division.